Season 3, episode 14. Uh, the Boy Who Tried Wolf. This one, they actually call back the continuity from season 2, which is weird given that they have ignored continuity in this season so far, or messed with it. But Merton is doing dental work on wolf dental work on Tommy when he is accidentally bitten. So he's going to turn into a werewolf. They tell him to eat the wolf's bane because that calls back to the Manchurian Candidate two-part, the Manchurian Werewolf two-parter in season 2, where they had Laurie eat some wolf's bane. And so he appears to eat it, but it turns out he did not eat it. He ate oregano. So and they have become an actual werewolf. Like the full moon and everything. He's a full-fledged werewolf. But of course, predictably, he becomes evil. However, I have a problem with this because, watching through this series like I have, season 1, episode 2, he wanted Tommy to bite him so that he could be the werewolf, and Tommy wouldn't be a werewolf anymore. But, and you always wondered, well, what if that had happened and Merton would be the werewolf? Just having him become evil like Laurie did. See, I could see Laurie being evil and Chuck, like we saw in the previous episode. Merton, I just don't. I mean, he's evil, but he's still Merton, so he's a goofy evil. But it just, I don't know. It's never sat right with me that Merton would just turn evil. It's lazy writing so that they can have an evil werewolf story with this. Like, oh, if Laurie turned evil, then obviously Tommy would turn, or Merton would turn evil too. But Laurie was a juvenile delinquent. She had a criminal record. She's done some things that weren't too savory. Merton, president of the Gothic Fantasy Guild, avid D&D player, nerd-ish guy who's never shown any kind of evil. He even points it out on a chart that his family has no evil. And although he does say there's butchers, bakers, and even candlestick makers. The butchers, I don't know, maybe butchers, depending, but I don't know. There's also a subplot, and I call it a subplot. It's a through line of the season, or the episode, excuse me. It's a through line of the episode, but there's this vaguely European werewolf hunter, monster hunter, who's come to Pleasantville to go after the werewolf. And after calling back to continuity, they say there's never been any proof that there's actually a werewolf in Pleasantville. Bullshit! There's been several episodes where people have seen the werewolf. There are several times people, TNT has seen the werewolf. There's been those who have documented the werewolf being seen. Yes, there's episodes where it's like, oh, that the werewolf is here, whatever Wolf is Heroes, whatever it was called, where they just, it was just this and this. But still, there's been enough hoo-ha for it to at least be documented. There is some sort of werewolf in town. But, yeah, Merton starts becoming evil. And again, like I said, I don't think it works well for this character. Chuck being evil, Chuck is an asshole. He's a cocky football player. There's some evil inside of him. Laurie being evil, there's probably darkness inside her. Merton, no. Like, Merton is one of those outcast type people who just, he's a nice guy. I don't think he would turn evil. I don't understand this serious, insistence that Tommy would always be the only good werewolf out there. It just doesn't make sense to me. There has to be other good werewolves out there. But every time someone gets bit, they're evil for some reason. And Tommy's the only good werewolf in existence. I don't know. But Merton gets caught in one of the traps, which is a silver cage. We'll get to problems with this. He calls Tommy. Tommy goes to rescue him. He pulls down on this chain. Wouldn't the chain be silver too? Just saying. And Merton tricks him and puts him in the cage. The hunter shows up and he knocks the hunter out with his own blow dart and then uses the guy's whip to open the cage. And then Merton shows up. They find out the only way, since he didn't, he couldn't, since the, since he didn't need the wolf's bane and he's now a werewolf, the only way to change him back is to either silver bullet to the heart or werewolf antibodies, which I've never mentioned before, but I guess, mentioning it in season 1, where it's like, there's never be no one to have werewolf antibodies in it, so, but, Laurie has werewolf antibodies in her bloodstream, because she used to be a werewolf, so, yeah, but, Tommy's like, no, he's not biting you, whatever, and so, when Merton shows up at the factory by himself, Laurie's like, hey, where's Tommy? He's like, took care of him, like, I'm evil, and then this guy picks on him, so he goes to buff him up, but Tommy shows up, and they have a showdown. Tommy refuses to fight him, so she's like jumping around and stuff, and Merton's like, I have this silver nitrate gas in a little silver ball. Wouldn't it burn? I don't know. He goes like this. It dissipates. And it's always interesting on TV shows when they throw gas, how gas would go everywhere, but in the TV shows, it just is only where they are. I said this with the Mind Over Merton episode, where that gas, and Merton's just like, and it doesn't affect him, although it would spread throughout the entire friggin' school, but it doesn't, and it seems to be gone, and then when Merton goes back in, it's just there again in the middle of the room. But here, the gas just goes and blows it away, like it's just gone, and he's like, okay, Tommy, I'm gonna finish this. And then Laurie shows up and says, oh, hey, I want to be evil again, bite me. Bites her on the arm, the antibodies take hold, he's immediately turned back to normal. And the guy that Merton was trying to go after brings the monster hunter. He's like, there was 2 werewolves here. They're like, oh yeah, they ran away when I heard you were on the case. I don't think they'll be back. And yeah. And Merton is now trying to figure out where the evil came from, which, I don't know, I guess that's sort of trying to explain. Where he says, there's no evil in my family tree. Have you met your sister? Just saying. But Merton is a person, I don't think he would be evil. But it's a fun episode. It's something where they were like, well, we had Laurie become a werewolf, why don't we have Merton become a werewolf? But it's too stereotypical. I don't think that the whole, if Laurie became an evil werewolf, then Merton has to as well. It's just too formulaic. It's too, he has to be evil because she was. But I don't think Merton would be evil. Especially if they forgot their own continuity, because he wanted to be the one that Tommy bit to transfer the wolf stuff. And knowing that he would have ended up being evil kind of takes away from the what if he actually did it. Well, then we'd have evil now we know we'd have an evil werewolf. That kind of just takes away from it. You know what I mean? But yeah, 6 more episodes left. Well, 5 really. The last one's a clip show, but we are going to talk about it. But yeah, so moving on.